What is up, guys? This is Enzo Spins here with, actually, if you watched my last video, I did a slight review of the Stealth B2. Now I wanted to do a little bit more in-depth review after about a week or two of using it. So, without further ado, we'll get right into this. Alright, guys, so here is the B2 in all of its wonderful glory. We'll get into a little bit more about the buttons, because these are not the original buttons that it came with. These right here are actually the buttons it came with. And if you can see, and I'm not sure you can like real well, let me try and focus it a little bit. They do not concave, but maybe, oh, I don't even know if that's a centimeter down. It is the buttons that they came with are very slippery, and they are very hard to grip. And that's a problem on bar spinners, because bar spinners obviously don't have as much support as the tri-spinners do. So when you're spinning it, you want as much grip as you can on these, or else you're going to have some issues spinning it, and you're going to drop it more often than not. So what I did was I took buttons off of my Zentree from Fidget HQ, and I put those buttons on this spinner. And I know that you might not be able to see much of a difference, but I can promise you that there is a big difference. See, it does dip down a little bit more than these buttons do, and they are not as slippery. I haven't dropped this yet since I switched my buttons, but I promise you that if you switch these buttons out, you're going to be able to grip it a lot easier than if you hadn't. I know that right now, as we speak, the Stealth Spinner guys are actually working on a new type of button, because they do realize that they had some problems with their buttons. So that was just something I wanted to get out of the way first, is if you want the most out of this spinner, I would probably upgrade your buttons, whether that be buttons from, or I got mine is from Fidget HQ, but I know that there are a bunch of other places that do actually sell these buttons. So just keep in mind that the buttons may need to be changed for you. Now, some people may be able to grip it easier than I did, but for sure I didn't. So here's where we're going to get into the review part, so let's go. Okay, so as far as the size goes on this thing, this is it compared to the size of a quarter. It's really not that much bigger than the quarter itself. I would say the buttons are a little bit smaller, but as far as it extending out, it's really not that big of a spinner. It would probably take maybe 2.5 of these quarters to actually equal the size of what this thing is. So it's really not that big. It does look bigger on their website, I know, but it's, like I said, not that big. So that's as far as size goes. Weight, I've got my handy dandy scale right here. We are going to, let's see, zero that out. Oh, I missed my spinner. And then going to set it on there. So right now we're weighing in at, well, that is not right. There we go, 70 grams, which is odd, because when I weighed it with these buttons on when I first received it, it was 72 grams. So I don't know if these buttons just so happen to be a little bit heavier than the Zentree buttons, but there's that. So 70 grams. So as far as heaviness goes, not so much. I mean, it does have a little bit of heft to it, but no. So on each arm, you've got Stealth right there. I'll just let it spin its way around, and then B2 right there. On the other side, there's nothing. So nothing on either side. I mean, nothing on one side, and then you got Stealth and B2 on the other side. So, you know, it does look nice. if you know what a Lamborghini, and I know they have a spinner called the Aventador. If you know what a Lamborghini Aventador kind of looks like, it still reminds me of a Lamborghini. So just these little notches right here, which there are three of, I guess technically. Out of the box, this spun 2 minutes and 30 seconds. They did give you another bearing, which so I could store it easier. I hooked it up to these buttons. But they did give you another bearing. I switched it out, and I still only got 3 minutes out of it. He did say one of the makers of this spinner did say that they did have about 5% of the bearings didn't spin as long as the other 95%. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that I just got two bad bearings. So I haven't replaced the two yet. I do plan on it just so I can see how much longer I can get this thing to spin. But as far as their bearings that they provided for me, 2 minutes, 30 seconds, and then 3 minutes. So that's as far as it goes spin time. Let me get into the bearing and how to remove it, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so some of you may be a little bit familiar with the way that this bearing is set in there. It's getting more common than not, just because of the simple fact that it's a lot easier to hold that bearing in with this retainer and then screw it out. So these buttons unscrew. Well, at least the Zentry ones do. The other ones do as well, but you just unscrew the buttons. They'll screw right out of this bearing, and then as you can see, this bearing has two little notches. I got this handy dandy tool. I will provide the link for in the description. It is also from Fidget HQ. So what this handy dandy tool does is it's got two sides. So you got a smaller side, which is what we'll use for this, and then you got some of the bearing retainers that are pretty big, like wider round, like 608s bearings. Those are bigger. So we're gonna use this side, and what you do is you stick it in these notches, and you give it a nice twist, and it pops it loose, and then the rest of the time you can just unscrew. So I'm gonna go ahead and unscrew this, so give me just 1 sec. So once you get this retainer off, like I said, it just screws right open. You're going to see the bearing is just sitting in there, so you can just flip it over and it'll fall out. But you can also, I mean, mine was set in there. I already pressed it out a little bit. It's not going to be just as easy as flipping it over, but that's how you get the bearing out. So as you can see, this fits an R188 bearing, no bigger. So that is becoming standard in most of the higher end spinners. When I look for a spinner personally, I know that I look for an R188 bearing just because I love the way they spin and how quiet they are and stuff. I've never had a problem with an R188. So, but that's how you get the bearing out. I will do a separate video, I suppose, on how to clean a bearing. I know that a lot of people have some difficulties with cleaning bearings. They have no idea what to use. They have no idea how to dry it out. So that'll be its own separate video. But if you just want to switch out the bearing or get it out to clean it, that's how you do it on this spinner. I know some spinners are different, but most are switching to this right here. So get used to it. Like I said, I'll provide a link for this little handy tool over there, but that's how you get the bearing out. So give me just 1 sec and we'll take a look at how this thing spins. Alright, we're just going to go over quickly how this thing spins. Well, if you don't know how to spin a spinner, you're just actually looking to buy a spinner, but for me, I hold it with my middle finger here on the bottom, thumb on the top, so just like that, and then I flick it with my ring finger. So that's just how I spin mine. I know that some people do, different styles, but that's how I flick mine. So if you don't know how to flick a spinner, it's actually not as complicated as you think it is. This is how I do it: thumb and middle finger, and then flick it with your index, or with your ring finger. I'm sorry, or index. You can, if you like to pull it, you can pull it with your index finger. A lot of people like that, I know. So, but as far as this thing spins, man, I know it's a bar spinner, but I have more than one bar spinner, and I'm not gonna lie, the wobble on this thing isn't. It's kind of bad as far as the wobble goes. I've got some what people call clones, which are just Chinese remakes of pretty popular spinners that spin better, or that don't wobble as much as this does. And like I said, I know most bar spinners, which is what the 2-arm spinners are actually called, they're meant to have a little bit of wobble. They're not meant to per se, but they all do have a little bit of wobble. So, don't expect it not to. But when I'm spinning, actually, the problem here is I don't rotate it on its axis very much. I just hold it still. But man, when I like right there, it just jerked it like out of my finger. That's how bad that wobble is. But the thing is I love carrying this thing. Like, I know some people don't like the wobble. I really don't like wobble, but when I'm carrying it, I just spin it like this and I just leave it. I don't rotate it on its axis, so I don't have a big problem with the wobble. But it does spin smooth. It is quiet. This bearing is quiet after I cleaned it. I know that I needed to clean it before, but it does spin. It's pretty smooth, and it's pretty quiet. But like I said, the wobble is a problem here, and I don't know if you can see that, but that's the one thing with this spinner I don't actually enjoy. So everything else about this spinner, I do recommend it. If you do like the feedback or the wobble, go for it. I mean, some people do enjoy that little extra, I guess you could call it an extra fidgety thing. People like seeing this spinner by the feedback, because they like feeling it in their fingers. Me, on one hand, I don't, so that's my issue. But like, everybody has their own personal preferences. Some people love bar spinners, some people like the tri spinners. I do like this bar spinner. I do. I carry it almost every day. I don't know why. I love how smooth it spins. It like I said, it does spin pretty dang smooth. So I like, sometimes when I don't feel like spinning it, I'll run my fingers on these texture, on this I guess you'd call dips, as like a feely thing, and then I like the shape of it. I like how smooth it spins, but I don't like the wobble. That is the only problem I have with this spinner. That's the only problem I probably ever will have with this spinner. I hope one day to do another review on another one of these company spinners, because this is pretty high quality. It is a brass material with black coating over it, so it's brass. Table spins, not bad. So there you have it. That's a little bit of a review of the Stealth B2. We'll do a TLDR real quick. Basically 70 grams with the Zentry buttons. I weighed it in at 72 with the buttons that they provided. As far as the quarter size goes, it is going to be about 2.5 quarters length. Bearing is removed by just the bearing retainer, which you can get this fancy dancy tool from. And then spin time 2:30 with my first bearing out of the box, and then 3 with the other one. But like I said, I could have got just that very slight chance that I got both of the bad bearings. And then spin, as far as spin goes, I mean, you got your wobble that I don't like. You got the smoothness of it. But I do like this spinner, and I do suggest it to a lot of people. And I hope you guys like this video. Go ahead and like and subscribe. Thank you.